There are 27 amendments in the Constitution of the United States, but there's one amendment that ended up turning into a documentary feature that premiered on Netflix, and that is 13th. 13th is our fourth documentary film and would definitely have to be the runner-up in the best documentary race. It was considered the front-runner for a long time ever since it was released, but then when we get to our final film tomorrow, you'll see how it goes. The documentary is directed by Ava DuVernay, the same director that brought you the 2014 film Selma, which won an Oscar for Best Original Song for Glory, and it was also nominated for Best Picture. And it was his only nomination other than Original Song. 2 nominations for Selma. And that kind of be part of the controversy of the diversity of the past 2 Oscar years. But this is her second film, but her first documentary, as this looks very closely at the 13th Amendment, which is an amendment that would free the slaves of the United States unless as a punishment, which is crime. And crime is a big summarized word for this film. This film is definitely really great. I see why a lot of people consider this film the best documentary film of the year. DuVernay's direction really shows on how this amendment in particular is not also a problem still in the past, but still in the present as well. Now, when this film takes particularly of how the US government, this 13th Amendment looks in between from the presidency of Richard Nixon to the 2016 presidential election that we do not want to talk about. But not also that, it even shows comparisons of some of the things that happened today that was a big thing during the civil rights era. And this film just... wow. Like, I don't even know what to say for this film. Since crime is one of the biggest words that's used in the film, you would see a larger majority of the prison clips that are African Americans, not white Americans. For white Americans, they would get almost 2 or 3 years or something like that, but for an African American, it would almost take them maybe a decade in prison. And that is still a problem with the minority of this film. As the prison becomes bigger and bigger, the population just went from 1,000 and to over 2 billion, still to this day. And this is still a problem as of the 21st century. Now, before I saw this film, I watched the Oscar Documentaries Week thing that they do on the week of the Oscars and honoring the feature films and the short film categories. And when they were showing their clip for 13th, I was stunned, and it just floored me when they showed a clip. Well, it was taken around during the 2016 presidential election from the president, with then candidate Hillary Clinton, and then candidate who will become our now president, Donald Trump. And it shows that he said, remember the good old days. And they were referring to the days of the civil rights movement. And you see all these white people just pushing these African Americans, innocents, because they have the exact freedom they are in their country. One amendment is still a big problem today with our country, and it still had not been fixed yet. Don't know how long it will take, but the African American community does not want any more police brutality on innocent African Americans, especially for those white police officers who are racist. Because if you kill an innocent black person, they just go on a massive rage. That's what it was with the diversity controversy a little bit when there were no African American actors nominated from the past 2 years. Luckily, this past year's Oscars was already fixed. But the ending. Oh my goodness. When they showed the amount of police brutality clips at the end, nearing the end of the film, and that ending is one of the best endings of a motion picture this year, and definitely the best ending of a documentary film this year. It just really shocked me that I almost had myself in tears watching these innocent African Americans on how they deal from being a slave to a criminal with one amendment. I recommend anyone to see this on Netflix. This film is also a recommendation for history classes, specifically for the civics and governments class, as you're looking at just this amendment in particular, as this is still a big problem today with our US government. Well, we looked at the 13th Amendment, but now we are going to be looking at our winning documentary film, as it looks on a little bit of a history of that man himself, O.J. Simpson. OJ Made in America is going to be next.